Welcome back on the live stream. Hello, hello. And we have the third session this afternoon with three different presentations of quite different content. We're going to be joined in a moment by Arno from Amplify, with possibly, I think, the longest title for a presentation I've ever seen, so congratulations on that. Now, before Arno presents, we're going to get real examples of surveys that him and the team have been experiencing, and I'm looking forward to this. We have tried to protect the identity of the innocent. Well, I think the problem is that we might all be a little bit guilty. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Arno to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to try and move this. There you go. Okay, I apologise for the long title. Hopefully it'll get a bit more interesting after the title. So, first of all, we've talked a lot about fraud and quality, and a lot of this has been around panels and around a lot of different players within the industry. And I do think that when we talk about fraud in particular, it seems like a pretty low bar that we're expecting people to not be fraudulent, and therefore that equates to quality. I also don't think that we should necessarily be saying that our panels are high quality if they're just not fraudulent. It's not, just because you are a person does not mean that you are necessarily giving high quality data. And also maybe some of the metrics that we have are a little bit not fit for purpose. But I want to go beyond this. I want to take you from fraud to the respondent experience. And I want to look at what the respondent actually experiences. So if you look at this, we all talk about the survey experience, but it starts before that. Respondents are recruited somehow. They are also then profiled somehow. You get to this then, the process around the survey itself, and there's then a lot of detail within that. So let's start with recruitment. The recruitment could start anywhere. It could be on a site, it could be an ad, and as we'll find out later, it could be other panels. They're then profiled, either on a recruitment site, on a panel management platform, even in a spreadsheet. You also then get, within the survey experience, you get invited to a survey. And that could be either from a panel management platform, or by email, a notification in an app, an offer wall, on a website, all of these different ways that we try and get people to do surveys. All of them, they have to experience. Now we get onto the fun stuff. Once they've been invited to a survey, there's then some kind of routing sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And that also can include some profile questions. You then get the screening, more questions, potentially more profile questions. You then get the survey itself. Okay, obviously more questions. And then finally, you get the reward, or maybe you don't get the reward, because sometimes you get it straight away, sometimes you get it in a month, sometimes you have to earn literally £50. There is one panel out there where you have to earn, I think it's £48 before you can actually redeem your rewards. So that's just setting the frame for what our respondents have to go through. Right. I promise you on my kids' lives that the following 4 experiences were real, and these are the only 4 surveys that I clicked on. I haven't picked and chosen from a whole load of really bad experiences. I started and then I finished after 4 surveys. The only thing I've done is I've slightly changed the order in which they happened. Okay? So this is 4 experiences that a real respondent would have had. First of all, there's the invite. Fine. Okay, start the survey. That's the first screen I get. Not quite sure what to do. Please don't refresh the page. Okay. I then got this screen for 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, I gave up. Okay? Right, let's try again. The invite, this time telling me how many minutes, what I'm going to get. The first screen, postcode, fine. A few more profile questions, all fine so far, very nice. And then, hold on, now what? Now we get a cookie notice. Have I not already been on this site? No. Now I'm being taken somewhere else. Well, hold on, I'm being recruited into another panel. So I've got an invite from the panel that I joined, and now I'm being taken to a panel to be recruited to them. Bear in mind, I've been told this is a 5-minute survey, and I'm going to earn a certain number of points. All right, well, I'm thinking, for the purposes of this great conference, I'm going to continue, I'm going to see what happens and see whether it takes 5 minutes and whether I'm going to get my reward. Right, so create my account. Then I get this question. Now, for a couple of days, I highlighted those 2 questions thinking, oh, that's wrong. And then I realized, no, actually, that's right. But how many people know that it's right? Would it be understood? How many people think there is a difference between sex and gender? I mean, there is, but it's still confusing. It's not clear. All right, there's little eyes, little information icons next to them. You could go in and click on those, but you won't. You'll just think, if you're any average respondent, you'll think, hold on, I'm doing the same question twice. But I'm now getting a little bit more concerned because they're now asking me, to the point about that we had in the panel, they're asking me for my address. All right, is this really legit? Oh, okay, now there's some terms and conditions. But I've got 3 things I need to read. Obviously, I'm not going to read them. Nobody ever reads them. But there are now 3 things. I'm used to 2 things. And then, almost there, just go into your email and you'll get the sign up for the panel. Great. Where's the reward? Where's the redirect taking me back so that I can be registered as a complete? No survey, no reward, and I'm now on 2 panels. And probably won't ever take a survey for either of them ever again, if I'm normal. But no, I'll try again. Remember, that was number 2, so this is number 3. Right, this is encouraging. Straight into this. Tells me what's going on, tells me it's all legit, tells me the name of the company, that's all great. Still encouraging, brilliant. Are you male, female? Okay. When were you born? Text box. Click on the text box. Oh, hang on, that comes up. Now what's happening? Do I use the text box or do I want to do this bit? Not completely clear. But as it is, it doesn't matter because it doesn't work anyway. So I've now done 3 surveys. I've clicked on 3 invites. I have yet to complete a survey. And it, surprisingly to me, it wasn't because of routing, wasn't because of screening. This is because of other things. Right, let's try again. So this, I haven't given you the boring invite every time, but this time, 5-minute survey, okay? And by the way, in case anybody doubts me, there's the time at the bottom. Right, take a survey, great. Bearing in mind I've already clicked on an invite, so there's answer 1 screening question, another consent question. This is encouraging, at least it looks fairly simple what I'm supposed to do this time. And again, but I've already answered that, haven't I? Yeah, okay, so it's a second gender question. All right, now what's going on? So can I go back a slide? So now it's a completely different screen. And I'm now being asked for a captcha, but not just that, it's Recapture, I don't know what that is. Why tell me what that is? Just let me click on a box. So I click on the box. Keep going, answer some questions. This is all great so far. Brilliant. Thanks for taking the survey. But now I'm somewhere else. So now I'm being, oh, hold on. And for the third time today, and we get kicked out. Okay, so once more with feeling. Last time I'm going to try this. Again, only 5 minutes. Great. Again, quite an encouraging first screen. Quite a bit to read, but I'll keep going. More questions. All right, fine. Now, bearing in mind that I'm flicking through these, all right, so if I was actually to answer all of these in a considered way, in the way that we want people to answer them, forget about the experience I've had with the 3 or 4 other surveys. I will read all of those and see which ones are relevant. And I will read all of this and notice that it scrolls down quite a bit. Oh, well done, you're in the survey. That's after 4 minutes. I was told this was a 5-minute survey. Okay? That's what I'm being rewarded for. That's what I thought I was being rewarded for. And after 9 minutes, I won't take you through the survey. The survey was fine, it was good, everything worked, well done. If anybody wants me to call them out as a company that works, then I will quite happily divulge who it was. But well done, it got to the end, 9 minutes, but I was told it was 5. So what does that teach us? Well, we'll go into what it teaches us in a minute, but what I was hoping to see was some more classics around real fails. That whole experience was a massive fail. But if you want to see how it could have been, just make yourself feel a little bit better, how about that one for a question? Or maybe this one. I know I'm cherry picking and it's kind of, for impact and whatever, but these are real things, and I hope somebody's German is good enough to be able to deal with this. It's just unbelievable. There's so much to think about. If you think back to the experiences that I had with the surveys that I tried to do, I was recruited into a panel. Just no, that shouldn't be allowed. None of the time expectations were met. I mean, apart from the fact that I didn't get to even try and meet those expectations for a few of them. Length of interview is obviously wrong, but that has implications not just for the respondent. It has implications for sampling, because the average LOI impacts how high up on the list that survey goes. Some platforms will shut down sampling if LOI is too high compared with what you were expecting. So your whole project could get shut down, no sample, if this happens. So it's not just the impact on the respondent, there's a business impact here. Things break. Okay, they break frequently. They should not break as frequently as I've just shown. And I know it's a small sample size, but you would expect the small sample size to maybe throw up, I don't know, one that doesn't work. Questions are repeated. We all know they're repeated, but really, this is one of the questions that we have as a standard. All right, there's no reason why that question should be repeated that many times. Pass it through. And it's not just me, okay? I'm pissed off, but respondents, the people that essentially do the work for us to pay the bills, they can't be impressed with this. Why would you stay on a panel if this is going to happen? So if respondents aren't impressed, are we impressed?
I find it wholly depressing and yeah, wholly depressing and just shocking in a way that how do people think that it's all right to one even put that out in the world with their logo on it? Um, and what do they expect to happen if if they give if they treat respondents or participants, as I prefer to call them, people do more than respond, but maybe not in the instance that you showed there. How can they even expect the industry to continue? It's shocking. It's terrible behaviour. It tars us all with a bad brush, and it's not something I would want to put my name to or be involved in. We have to do better.
Brilliant reaction.
Hi, Arno. Thank you very much for that presentation. My initial reaction, I am not surprised, although that doesn't make it okay. I think some of those experiences are incredibly poor. This is something we should be battling as an industry, as you know, from a software supplier point of view. We need to get our head around how we can simplify that and enforce best practices, because it brings up the bigger issue, I suppose. We talk about fraudulent panelists, but we don't talk about fraudulent panel companies and how they really bite the bullet and try their best to give the panelists the best respondent experience as well. And again, I think that's a debate we need to have as an industry, saying, you know, we need to self-regulate and have better quality standards as a whole to make sure that any respondents that come into our ecosystem at any point get a positive environment and a positive experience. Anyway, thank you very much.
So some questions for you. If you were, I'm not expecting a show of hands, by the way, because I'd like to think you would all respond in the appropriate manner. But if you were a respondent, would you really come back and try this again after those four or five experiences? Lots of people shaking their heads. Oh, and by the way, what if you knew you were going to get 60p? If you're going to get 60p for doing that, that's assuming you're going to get paid. And by the way, the 60p, you probably can't claim it for another 7, 8, 9, 10 surveys. So you've got to go through that 7, 8, 9, 10 times before you can actually get your 60p. And would any of this encourage you to give you honest answers? And that's partly my main focus here, because all of this means you're getting shit. Okay, nobody is going to give you proper answers. Maybe this time, but next time they're going to expect this. They're going to speed. Oh, and then they get kicked out. Even better experience. But they're being kicked out because this is the experience they had the last time. If you're a panel owner, do you want your people to go through this? Do you want your main asset to be treated this way? I don't. By the way, if you said yes to any of these, then come and see. Well, you can't come and see me afterwards because I've got to shoot straight off after this. But get in touch with me somehow, and yeah, we need a good chat. Seriously though, all of this affects quality. It clearly affects quality because you're not getting quality from the responses. They can't give quality responses if the survey doesn't work. They're not going to take us seriously. And really, throwing in some quality questions, that's not going to cut it here. But the more existential issue that we have here is really how many people are left to take these surveys. So I've just demonstrated the poor experience. You've almost unanimously, probably in your own heads, decided that you wouldn't do this again. So why would anybody else? And bearing in mind that we only have 60 odd million people in this country, and yet I'm going to guess that we have claimed 2 million people on panels in this country. What's the churn on that? How many people do we have to get through before there are no more people left to take surveys? And if there's no more people left to take surveys, the only people left to take surveys are sitting in Indonesia or Romania or wherever you want that isn't the UK and that aren't real respondents pretending to be from the UK. It's getting worse because it's getting disaggregated. So we've got lots of people playing lots of different parts, everybody passing respondents on, everybody asking the same questions. And what are we going to do when there's nobody left? Suddenly AI becomes not the big monster in the room, but maybe the only savior we've got left. All right, so I was told, don't be a doom monger, don't just show everybody a load of stuff. So I thought I'll stick a slide in at the end that says here are a few ideas. So industry standards. Clearly, if we have industry standards, then all of this will go away. Maybe not, but it would be helpful. But how long is it going to take? And I know there are lots of good efforts going on. People are waking up to it. I was at SampleCon this year, and yeah, there was a real palpable feeling that something needed to be done, and now something seems to be being done. But how much of the issue is going to be addressed? How long will it take? But there is one thing that we can do now. Because if we adopt profile questions as standard, so if everybody uses the same standards, the routing questions go away, the screening questions go away, the repeated questions go away. People think we're actually listening to them. People think we're actually doing something clever. We can target, as sample providers, as panels, as exchanges, we can target people better. Because suddenly, somebody that's marked as, I don't know, 15 or 16 to 25 is also 16 to 25 in somebody else's panel. And therefore, when you pass that through, you don't have to ask the question again. And maybe clients will also understand that they don't have to ask that question again. One small thing that might make a massive difference. I've also mentioned that there's a lot of disaggregation. So you have companies that specialize in recruitment. There are companies that specialize in sampling, panel management, survey scripting, survey design, rewards. All of these things are disaggregated. At every single step, somebody's making some money. But what if we could control the flow better? Because if you were in charge of the panel and the survey, do you think you'd be passing those people through in the way that you would be otherwise? No. And just being better at what we do. I think we've talked about the training. We've talked about people being a little bit more considerate. Yeah, think about your mum. What would she do? Mine probably would have phoned me up and said, how do I do this? But that's... But I think the key thing here is not just to be efficient. We've had a race to the bottom in terms of pricing for sample. Everybody wants to do things cheaply. Everybody wants wants to make a decent impression in front of clients by not coming in as the most expensive. Fine, but it can't all be about efficiency because that's a very short-sighted perspective. And this is maybe a little bit contentious, but I do think that the people who address this issue will also win out. They'll be the ones that end up still standing in 10 years' time, and the people that are not addressing this issue will go out of business. You can't do a 1 cent complete. You can't manage that in the environment that we have at the moment. And by the way, stop recruiting through other panels, especially when the other panels don't know about it. It's not fair. So my final recommendation would be to use good practice suppliers. If you find somebody that's not doing some of these things or that is, annoying you, pissing you off, showing any of the things that I've shown today and stop using them. And if you're a client, buy more discerningly. I'm going to finish with another video. See if it comes on.
Thank you, Arno, for inviting me to be part of your presentation. I wish I could be in London with you, but I'm happy that our current ESOMAR president, Ray Pointer, and ESOMAR chair of the Professional Standards Committee, Judith Bassingham, are in the audience. I invite you to have a discussion with them about the topics I believe Arno is raising, which are fraud and the respondents' experience. Our fraud is a very relevant working group in which ESOMAR is intensely working along the MRS and the Insights Association. Fraud is a clear threat to our industry, as it has been to the AdTech one. Remember that in our Congress in Edinburgh, I warned about not following the steps of the AdTech industry, as fraud was already well quantified and the level of targeting accuracy was massively poor. Today, brands are already leaving the obsession on performance marketing behind and focusing themselves on brand building. Today, the most relevant brands work in the mid and long term to construct strong brands. In our industry, we're still in the efficiency obsession. The strong message that end clients are sending out of faster, cheaper, and in-source is pushing the whole ecosystem to look for efficiency. Our insights world today is pipeline. Today from London, you can get 1,000 interviews of 5 minutes from 100 countries in less than 24 hours. It is technically possible. At the same time, we see from Arno's experience how this is possible. It is possible by pushing our surveys to the extreme, neglecting on many cases the respondents' experience. And respondents' prices have experienced a race to the bottom in the last 6 years. If the industry continues its race to the bottom, very soon it will encounter the bottom and the rates will rebound to the top. Why? Very simple. The willingness to participate will massively drop. In fact, it is already dropping in many key targets, such as young adults or specialized targets. So let's work on efficiency while we keep a firm eye on the panelist respondents, which in the end will elevate the quality of our raw material, the responses from people. Thank you, and I hope you continue enjoying this conference.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Microphone. Wow. A few stunned faces. Any questions for Arno before we move on to our next presentation? I'm sure there's loads, but don't shoot the messenger, I think, is the key here. Actually, one more mic, please. I brought that one.
You do that one, I'll do this
one. Arno, thanks. Matt, that was brilliant. Needed to be said and well said. And I did have a serious question. I didn't just put my hand up like that. As a good member of the MRS, I know that I'm obliged to promptly identify myself on a survey and make it easy for you to be in contact with me as a participant. I did notice you didn't seem to have to redact too many names and email addresses and telephone numbers from invitations. And was that the case? Were you able to speak to the people who wrote these surveys?
No, so it's not clear at all to the respondent who they're actually being surveyed by. So there was the one that I said was good practice. There was links and email addresses for you to contact somebody, but the others, no.
Perhaps that's why they don't work very well on the surveys.
Well, so what can I say? Those surveys were not by Mickey Mouse companies that I'd never heard of. Let's put it that way.
Other questions from the floor or from the live stream? Deborah?
I think we should have talk, Arno. We share many views in common. I recognise a lot of the things that I saw in your presentation. It's more of a general comment. One of the standard things that has been done in the sector for a long time is that people from the profession are screened out. You say, they ask what profession you're in. If you're a researcher, you get screened out because of, confidentiality issues, competitor issues, and so on. Do we need to sort of reconsider that actually researchers need to be participants a lot more to really understand what it's like to be on the other side of the fence? So
Sue Homeyards wrote a post probably about 2 or 3 days ago on LinkedIn saying exactly the same thing. She was screened out for a survey, and she was like, well, why? My opinion is just as valid as anybody else's. I might know the tricks of how to get around it, but I also know the value of answering this survey properly. So no, I agree with you. But by the way, I was not asked at any point if I was a market researcher.
Just to add, for many years now, pretty much every project I've worked on, I've insisted that the whole team, including the end client, does the survey on their mobile. And that's often caused the project to be held up, either from the client or from whoever scripted it, because when they script it, they'll often look at it on a big screen. And just that simple exercise, you've got to go all the way through and go to the end. And now most of the platforms have got great facilities that it will go through as a test. You don't have to type test in the open end at the end to make sure it's not in the data. It's really straightforward.
I'm just really pleased I didn't do any of these on my mobile, because this presentation might have taken a good different turn.
Arno, thank you, and thank you for all the questions.
Thank you.